It's about I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Being able to run as he shoots the moon to the fans here in Green Bay.
That is a disgusting act by
Loser! You're a loser!
Detroit, man, this is the Super Bowl.
Here we go. Stop from the gun to the touchdown. It is caught.
This is BS Sports.
And away we go. Hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas weekend. I certainly did. My Detroit Lions, for the first time, are NFC North Champions. It's kind of weird to say it out loud, even though I thought it was going to happen this year to begin with, but it is just a strange thing. It's something that quite literally nobody alive or dead has ever seen. The Lions have never won the North. They won the NFC Central. They won it twice. They've never won the NFC North. And to finally just get that bugaboo off your back, get that monkey off your back. That means a lot for a franchise. Franchise that has not won in a very long time. But we'll get into the game. We'll break it down a little bit. We'll talk about some of my takeaways at least. We also got to talk about what happened in the rest of the NFL. It was quite the crazy Christmas weekend. I mean, Kansas City, did you even play? I don't know what's going on with the Chiefs. And then also, briefly, I wanted to speak on some of the Pistons higher-ups, including head coach Monty Williams and Tom Gores, as currently your Detroit Pistons are playing to avoid history. And right now they have a 9-1 lead over the Brooklyn Nets early in the first quarter. So they're trying to avoid that 27-game losing streak. And at this point, I'm kind of rooting for it to happen just because nobody's gotten fired yet. And I want to see how many games it takes to get somebody fired around here. But we do have to get to the headliner. And it obviously is the Detroit Lions winning the NFC North. And look, I could go down the list of all the things about why this is significant. Haven't won the division in 30 years. That's already significant enough. Haven't won the division since it's been the NFC North. Ford Field will finally, for the first time since opening in 2002, host a playoff game. The Lions have been to the playoffs since playing in Ford Field. But Ford Field has never actually had to host a playoff game. We've seen how Ford Field was rocking this year. We saw it on opening weekend. We saw it Monday Night Football. I was at the game. We saw it, the Saturday night on NFL Network. We've seen it in pretty much every environment. Prime time, 1:00 start, Thanksgiving, what have you. This place is going to be rocking even bigger than it ever was, especially if they win. It has been over 30 years since our last playoff win, so that's already significant enough. But to have never won while playing in the city of Detroit, I mean, that's not only is that kind of embarrassing already, but it's like this is the moment. This is the best Lions team potentially ever right now. Like, obviously, the team that went to the NFC Championship right now is, the best Lions team, minus the teams that actually won the NFL championships in the 50s. We're not even gonna acknowledge those teams because, please, Bobby Lane. I don't know that Bobby Lane is, if Bobby Lane is your best quarterback in your franchise's history, you got a little bit of a problem. That's no disrespect to Bobby Lane, but the other thing I want to talk about here is the defense. The defense did its job. It won the turnover battle. 4 turnovers. Hold on, let me pull them up. Let me pull it up right now. We had 4 total turnovers. Where is it? There it is. 4-1 on the turnover battle. We had just the one Jahmyr Gibbs fumble. 4 turnovers. I believe they were all interceptions as well. Let me take a look. I know Iffy, obviously, with the final interception to seal the deal. You had Kirby Joseph with an interception. You had Brian Branch with an interception. I mean, like, it's one of those things, right, where you're just like, I mean, Kirby had 2 interceptions. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say you shorts, Kirby. You had 2 interceptions from Kirby. You had the game-winning interception from Melon Fonmu. You had the interception on 4th down from Brian Branch, which technically he probably should have just like batted down. We would have better field position. But you know what? It's an interception, and he dropped it. He could have had 2 interceptions too. Like, that's the thing. He had a dropped interception there. He very, very well could have had 2 interceptions. But on top of that, I mean, obviously you limit them to 24 points, which is, you know, I mean, it's not like you don't want to give up 24 points, but at the same time, that was as much as you were allowing. Right? Like your offense was helping you out. Your offense was scoring you points, and you were not letting them score. I mean, they didn't score a touchdown in the 4th quarter, and you had to come back in that second half to win that game. So it's to me, I look at it as, look, was the defense, you know, amazing? No, not necessarily, but pretty efficient on 3rd down. They were 3 for 9 on 3rd down, and you were getting off the field most of the time. And you didn't give up a 4th down either, 0 for 1. They had a total of 390 yards. It's not ideal. But look, you went into their house, and on defense, you played a solid game. You turned the ball over. You knew that the quarterback was turnover prone. This was one of the things, is you got to identify the weaknesses of the turnover. Nick Mullins, obviously the guy is turnover prone. And they brought the pressure. They had some sacks. They had some TFLs. They forced Nick Mullins to beat them. And Nick Mullins could not beat them. And that made all the world's difference. The irony is, though, Nick Mullins, to his credit, threw for 411 yards. So it wasn't like the defense was not giving up a lot of yards. It was just that it was a lot of sort of meaningless yards, given the fact that it was a few big plays to, you know, guys like Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, etc. And then from there, like, they couldn't run the ball. I mean, they ran for a total of 17 yards. You held an NFL team to 17 yards rushing, which means, again, when you stop the opponent from being able to run the ball, which this defense has done a really, really good job of doing, you force their quarterbacks to have to beat you. Now, granted, because our secondary and our defense in general is just not that good, that's probably where a lot of our losses and where we give up a lot of points. But you knew who you were going up against. You weren't going up against Kirk Cousins. You were going up against Josh Dobbs. You weren't going up against Tom Brady. You were going up against Nick Mullins. And you identified what kind of quarterback he is. He can throw the ball. He can get a lot of yards. But as far as accuracy, no. He'll underthrow it, get in front of the ball. And talk about if I'm found him, man. He like came out of nowhere. Like he had made like a few plays very early in the season. Obviously, he was drafted just a couple of years ago and really hadn't made much of an impact. And the past 2 games, he's been the best defensive player in the team. He's like Brian Branch 2.0, or maybe 1.0, because he was drafted before Brian Branch. Like, he just helps the DB room because he's all over the field. He's getting sacks. He's getting stripped. He's stripping the ball. He's getting interceptions. He's getting into cover. Like, he's doing everything. And to have a DB room that's already banged up, you're still hoping to get CJ Gardner-Johnson back soon. You don't have Emmanuel Mosley for the rest of the season. To have a guy like Iffy Millen-Vaughn step up and play ball like this, I mean, it just adds to the depth on this defense. So I think it's just a matter of getting these guys back, and especially if you can get that pass rush back, you're going to have a DB room of solid talent. It might be a lot harder to score on us than it might have seemed otherwise. Hopefully this defense has turned the corner at the right moment, but we shall see how the rest of the season goes. The other thing I want to point out about this game, that Goff and this offense, they cool as a cucumber. Cool as a cucumber. You're going into the half down, I believe they were down. They weren't down at the half, but they were ahead at the half, I believe, or maybe, yeah, they were ahead at the half by 3. And then Minnesota, first possession, couple of big plays, or at least one big play, I believe, to KJ Osborne, and then a KJ Osborne touchdown. And then you're sitting from behind. And did Goff in this offense panic like they did against the Bears? No. Did they just completely fold like they did against the Bears? No. They went out and they netted 13 points in the half to only 10 for the Vikings. Like, here's the thing. Jared Goff, did he play the most amazing game ever? No, he threw for 257 yards and just one touchdown. I mean, it's a good game, but it's certainly not like last week. But you ran the ball for 143 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, 80 yards on the ground. David Montgomery, 55 yards on the ground. St. Brown, 106 yards in the air with a touchdown. And Jameson Williams is your second leading receiver on the team. And you know what? I couldn't be happier. Jameson Williams has slowly but surely become more and more of a part of this offense. Like, okay, Sam Laporta has an off game. He only catches 3 balls for 18 yards. No big deal. J-Mo will come in. He'll catch 5 balls for 43 yards. He'll have a couple of nice catches. He'll pick up a second and 10, juking defenders. I mean, like, one of the things that I've pointed out watching him is his ability to juke out defenders in space. It's actually a little bit underrated. I mean, everybody talks about his speed. Everybody talks about even some of his blocking, because that's really been the two things that we've seen from him this year. But his ability, he's done this now 2 weeks in a row. We're in a second and long situation or a third and long situation like he did against Denver. Or I think that might have also been second and long. He makes the catch, and he's just juking defenders, and he picks up an extra 3, 4, 5 yards. That is an incredible ability to have as a wide receiver, especially someone like him with his speed. If he can do that and the DBs are, all the way on the other side, if it's one man to beat, J-Mo could be a big threat, especially near the goal line in the red zone, to just dive in to get a touchdown. I think it's only a matter of time before this guy starts racking up a lot more touches. Now, to his credit, or to be fair to the opposing side, he's not going to get more targets than St. Brown. I mean, St. Brown is just an absolute dog. I don't know that he's going to be all pro this year, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised. I certainly think he's going to be Pro Bowl. I think that's out of the question that he's not. He's definitely going to be a Pro Bowler. I mean, he was a Pro Bowler last year, but I think he was a fill-in Pro Bowler. I actually don't know if he was like starting Pro Bowler. But either way, I mean, like, let me just pull up his stats right now. Where does he rank among wide receivers? I mean, he's tied for 3rd in receptions. He's 5th in total yards. He's tied for 7th in touchdowns. And he's got an average of 12.1 per reception. He's averaging a first down every time he catches the ball. I mean, like he is just a dog. Like he's an absolute beast at the wide receiver position. And look, he's a little undersized. He's only 6 foot. Please, only 6 foot. I wish I was only 6 foot. But he's built like a tank, and he catches the ball. Like it's, to me, it's similar to Jared Goff in the sense that, look, is St. Brown super flashy? No. Is he Jamar Chase? No. Is he Justin Jefferson? No. But you know what he is? He's reliable. You throw the ball to St. Brown, probably going to pick up 10 yards. Probably going to pick up more than that. And he's not easy to tackle either. There's multiple times. I mean, you see it in the thumbnail where he just stiff arms a defender because he's so strong. He's built like a truck. And look, I could go on and on about St. Brown. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's easily one of my favorite players on the team. But my point is, in talking about all this, is that this team is deep, and this team is getting hot at the right time. Now, they have Dallas on the road. Dallas is coming off a couple of losses where they look pretty dang ugly. One problem, Dallas plays incredibly well at home, like to the point where they're basically not the same team. Let me pull them up really quickly here. Dallas at home. Let me just pull up their record. So at home, they are 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, 7-0, 7-0. So they are undefeated at home. Now, the Lions, on the flip side, on the road, Lions are 6-2, which is a pretty good record on the road. But, I mean, going in, ESPN does not favor us. I'm looking at it right now. ESPN puts us at a 29.7% win probability. They think it's about a 1-in-3 shot that we win this game. I don't think it's like a guarantee. But I think especially if we look competitive in this game, if we keep it close, heck, if we win the game, I think the conversation about going to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl is certainly like a fair thing to be talking about. I mean, this team has shown that they don't let adversity get to them. Oh, you fumble the ball early in the game? No problem. We'll just come back in the second half. Oh, you give them a big play in the third quarter? No problem. We're just not going to let them get a touchdown in the fourth quarter. We're just going to outscore them by 10 or by 30 points or whatever. We're just going to eat away at the clock. Oh, they made a 3rd and long late in the game? Okay, no problem. We'll just get a game-winning interception in our own territory. This team is just built different. And it's amazing that they win the North. I mean, it might not seem it because sort of some of the emotions, I guess, have kind of worn off at this point. Also, I had obviously a long Christmas weekend, family, friends, all that good stuff. But look, this is a team right now that step 1 is complete. Step 2, now you got to go out and you got to win the playoff game in front of your home crowd. I don't know who you're going to play. I don't care who you're going to play. You could play LA. You could play Minnesota. You could play Green Bay. You could play Tampa Bay. I don't care who you play. You got to go win the game. You have to. If you lose after all of this, it would be basically for naught. It would have been better for you to just not win the division at that point. But I don't think they're going to lose. They have not disappointed me at all this season. I mean, you're 11-4. Like, I mean, could you ask for a better season at that point? You got 2 more games left. You got Dallas on the road, which is easily. I mean, obviously, there's only 2 games left, but it's the tougher of the 2 games. And you end the season with Minnesota again at home, and that's a game where you certainly are going to want to look better. They're feeling from injury. TJ Hawkinson out for the rest of the season, torn ACL. Look, this is a new era for Lions football, and I think it's about time that people start to embrace it. This is a good team, and I go back to the weeks when we lost to Baltimore, or the week when we lost to Chicago or Green Bay on Thanksgiving. I look back and I just say, yeah, it was tough, and I tried to sort of level the ship a little bit when people were getting ready to say that the ship was going down. Just ups and downs of the NFL season. And that late November, early December period seems to have been the part of the season where we struggled a little bit. And we ended up just going 2-2. I'll take that. That's not a problem with me. But with that, we will transition now into the rest of the NFL week because we have a lot of little stories here. So, first of all, the Steelers absolutely murdered the Bengals. Before I do that, my apologies as well. I think I might have come down with something over the Christmas weekend. So, fortunately, my voice sounds a little scratchy. And or if I randomly cough, that is, I don't know. I must have caught something. I don't know if it's just the cold weather or the rain. And I don't know what it is. Hopefully I get over it soon. But anyways, the Steelers absolutely murdered the Bengals. I look at this game and I'm baffled. Okay, this is a game I didn't get to watch, unfortunately, but I saw the result, and I'm just going to read some stats for you, okay? This is absolutely unreal, okay? George Pickens, 4 catches, 195 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 for 6. Mason Rudolph, 17 for 27, 290 yards, 2 touchdowns. Najee Harris, 19 carries, 78 yards. Things are crazy when your leading receiver averaged 48 yards a catch. This is the quintessential Steelers victory because, look, Jake Browning looked terrible. I mean, 3 interceptions and just 1 touchdown. He threw for 335 yards, though. I mean, he racks up a lot of yards. Like, I mean, as far as backups, I don't think anybody would be that upset to have him as their backup, but look, this was a game that just completely got out of hand way too early for the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, I've talked about it before, but one of the problems with going down early in a game is technically you can come back, they were down 24-0 at the half. One small problem. You basically have to play a perfect game for 30 minutes. Good luck. Like you have to flip the script entirely. And Pittsburgh, meanwhile, can afford to make mistakes. I mean, they were outscored the second half. It didn't matter. Like, it did not matter because they were up 100. So, look, as far as playoff things, the only thing that bothers me about this, the Steelers are going to finish with a winning record again. Why can't anybody stop them? They're not a good football team. They tied with the 2021 Lions. How is this team, like, Mike Tomlin has to be the single greatest coach in Pittsburgh Steelers history at this point. Like, the fact that he can have these horrific teams with, you know, basically no you have Mason Rudolph as your starting quarterback, and you manage to win the game, not just like by a last second effort, but by a long shot. The game was over before the third quarter. Like, all he does is produce winning seasons. And I know some Steelers fans are going to say, oh, well, he's been riding off the coattails of that one Super Bowl he won, and he hasn't done anything. All the early round exits, all the drama with the wide. All that's fair. All that is fair. I totally understand that. But be careful what you wish for when you talk about firing this guy, because you just might get it. The problem with the Steelers is, I mean, the problem is certainly you shouldn't just fire him. You should keep him around, maybe just totally reorganize the entire organization. I mean, I don't know who their general manager is, but they have a knack for drafting just diva wide receivers. I mean, like wide receivers who don't want to play ball unless they are getting it thrown to them. And look, their quarterback situation is a little dire. Kenny Pickett, we don't know if he's the future. Certainly know that Mason Rudolph is not the future. Maybe you can try to sign or trade for a quarterback in the offseason, but you're going to be dealing with not great stuff for the most part. I don't know. And then on the flip side with the Bengals, look, you're lucky to even be here at this point. So you're still technically in the hunt. The playoffs are not completely out of reach for Cincinnati. But no Joe Burrow means you're probably not going to have a good time. I mean, you're 3-4 on the road. You still got a couple of games to play here. Let's see what the rest of their schedule looks like. They have the Chiefs on the road and the Browns at home. Yeah, they very easily could go 0-2 there, but Chiefs, we don't really know what's going on with them. We'll talk about them in just a second here. As far as the Steelers go, they will play the Seahawks on the road and the Ravens on the road. So that could they beat the Seahawks? See, the thing is, if they beat the Seahawks, they will have a 500 record again. It's an above 500 record again. It'll be the stupidest thing in the world, but it could very well happen. The Seahawks are not an easy team to beat, though. Certainly not on the road. So we'll see if they continue with that. But I mean, you got away with one, Pittsburgh. Playoff hopes are still alive, technically. But good luck in the next few weeks because you're going to need it. And speaking of the AFC North, I've got to talk about Joe Flacco. I mean, I don't know what year it is at this point. Is Joe Flacco just like good? Like, I don't know what it is. It doesn't make any sense. Joe Flacco, last week, 368 yards, 3 touchdowns, granted, 2 interceptions. I mean, he's not the Joe Flacco of yesteryear. He's not your dad's Joe Flacco, but he's still Joe Flacco. And I don't know what it like. I've slowly developed a kind of love for this Browns team. I mean, they have a really good defense. Their offense is not great, Bob. They had 54 rushing yards on Sunday, but Amari Cooper is legit. David Njoku is legit. They have some weapons there, and then you pair it with that defense of, you know, Myles Garrett and all them, the entire unit as a whole that's just schemed so well. Basically, every opponent they've just completely shut their offense down. I mean, this is like the weirdest Browns team in the world for me, because in any other year, I feel like a lot of people will be talking about this Browns team. But because the Lions are really good, everybody's focused on them. And because the Browns are, it's like the Browns are 10-5. They are one less loss away and one win away from being at the exact same point as the Lions, but they're not winning their division because the Ravens are just too good. And also they have Joe Flacco as their quarterback, which, again, Joe Flacco is playing pretty well. Like, I don't understand why. Like, I don't like. Nobody expected this for the Browns. I certainly didn't. I had the Browns winning like 5 games. I didn't think I thought they were going to be terrible. They lose Nick Chubb early in the season. They bring back Kareem Hunt. Kareem, did you even play? You ran for 11 yards on 7 carries. Did you even play? Like, nobody knows what's going on. Why are they actually winning? I mean, wouldn't it be just insane? Because this is the NFL and anything can happen. Wouldn't it just be absolutely insane if we have a Browns-Lions Super Bowl? Everybody's joked about it because it's like the Browns are the AFC version of the Lions and the Lions are the NFC version of the Browns. The 2 biggest losers in the NFL in the history of the league. Could you imagine for a moment that these 2 teams met in the Super Bowl? Because both of them are good enough that like they could sort of. I mean, the Browns. You don't know. Maybe Joe Flacco turns postseason / Super Bowl MVP Joe Flacco mode on, and he just goes off in the postseason. And the Lions, I mean, they're getting hot at the right moment. Meanwhile, the other teams in the NFC are getting cold right at the wrong moment. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm just saying it would be hysterical. It would also be kind of funny because I believe the last NFL championship that the Lions won in 57, I believe that was against the Cleveland Browns, the old Cleveland Browns, not these Cleveland Browns. But the current Cleveland Browns have the history of the old Cleveland Browns because the old Cleveland Browns moved to Baltimore. They became the Baltimore Ravens, but they don't have the old Cleveland Browns history. The Cleveland Browns now, they got the old Cleveland Browns. You understand? Cool. Good to know. But yeah, I just want to talk about that because Joe Flacco is, I don't know. He found the fountain of youth. He's like, he's able to just throw for 300 yards and feel nothing. I don't know how he does it. Meanwhile, the Cowboys lose on the road to the Dolphins on a last-second drive in a low-scoring affair. I thought this would be a lot more offensive of a game. I mean, Tyreek Hill was held to under 100 yards. Just goes to show you how good that Cowboys defense is. But I mean, this was a grimy game. This was not the game I expected. I expected this was going to be either a blowout of the Dolphins blowing out the Cowboys, or this was going to be just like a total, over under is like 80 and you don't know whether or not you should take the over or the under. But Dak had a good game, but he just didn't win. And I feel like this is just sort of a recurring theme with Dak specifically, where, look, you throw for 253 yards and a couple of touchdowns, nobody's going to be upset at you. At the same time, there's a Cowboys team that scored 3 points in the second and third quarters combined. I mean, they were working from behind for a good portion of the game. And they had the opportunity to put this one away, and they just didn't. I mean, they were forcing. Miami didn't score a touchdown the entire second half. That's a game you really should win if you're Dallas. And if you're Miami, I don't know that you come away from this feeling like you're, the cream of the crop. You certainly feel good about the win, but, Tua just had the 1 touchdown, Tyreek under 100 yards. Showed you that defense for Dallas is legit, like I said, but it also showed you that you can't just run all over them. I mean, they tried with Raheem Mostert and Achane. They ran for just 91 total yards. So I don't know that the formula is set for Dallas. However, here's the thing. Dallas right now has a 3-5 record on the road. They are not the same team at home, or they are not the same team on the road. Every single one of their losses has come on the road. Every single one. They are undefeated at home, 0-5 or 3-5 on the road, with all their losses being on the road, of course. That is not sustainable, especially given the fact that Dallas, I mean, it's technically still possible, but it's not likely that they become the 1 seed. And even if they do become the 1 seed, I've seen this before. Right now, Dallas is getting cold at the wrong time. This is the wrong time to start letting loose or start taking your foot off the gas. And look, credit to the Cowboys, players. CeeDee Lamb having a great year. Your kicker. What's the name of the kicker? I mean, the guy hasn't missed a kick. Hold on. Brandon Aubrey hasn't missed a kick. The guy is probably the best kicker in the league right now. I mean, if you got Brandon Aubrey in fantasy, you're feeling good about yourself. But these are two teams that feel very similar. High flash, big media market, classic teams that haven't won in a long time, but still have a lot of fanfare. Everybody knows their history. I just find myself rooting for the Dolphins more than I do the Cowboys for obvious reasons, because I hate the Cowboys. But Cowboys are going to be entering into this weekend with 2 losses in a row, both on the road, to be fair. However, the Lions going into this game 2-0 with a win on the road. I'm not saying the Lions are going to beat the Cowboys. I am saying it's not impossible. Might be a little bit more than 30%. We'll see as the days go by, because those matchup probability things change as the week goes by. But moving on to the Broncos. Broncos country. Let's die, because what? What? How did this happen? How does this? Okay. Now, I was one very early in the season. After that 70-point bomb was dropped on the Broncos, I said it was a fireable offense for Sean Payton. And look, before that Lions game, I was kind of eating my words a little bit. Now, after that Lions game, starting to think that Sean Payton was just kind of riding high. They had some wins where you're like, oh, it's a little surprising. I mean, I believe they beat the Chiefs. They beat the Bills. They beat the Vikings. They beat the Browns. Beat the Chargers on the road. They went. They went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for 7 up to that Lions game. Problem is, again, because they dug themselves that hole, because they started 0-3, you have to net 4 wins. And they have not done that at this point. They're 7-8. Still technically in the running for that division, I believe. Although probably not going to win it. But on to this actual game. Russell Wilson did not play a terrible game. I mean, he only threw for 238 yards, had a couple of touchdowns. Bailey Zappi also didn't have a terrible game. But everything, it's like the Broncos find these ugly ways to win. You look at the stats and you're like, okay, I mean, it's not amazing. It's obviously not good. But then you look at the score and you're like, well, it was a closer game. How did those things? I mean, it's bad. This is a bad game when neither team had a single player account for 100 yards other than their quarterbacks. Literally not a single one. The leading yards gainer, I don't know if that's even the word to use there, was Demario Douglas for the New England Patriots, who had 74 yards receiving on 5 catches. It's an average of 14.8. I mean, it's a good day. I'm not trying to stun on the man, but I'm just saying, it's there was a lot of muffs. You had Marvin Mims fumbling and then fumbling again on the kickoff. You had the opening drive strip sack that the Broncos netted a total of 0 points on. I just every time. Oh, and the Pistons are losing now, by the way. I look away for however long, and now the Pistons are losing 48 to 30, or 42 to 38. Anyways, there's just, I just look at this Denver Broncos team, and I certainly look at this New England Patriots team, and I just say, these two teams are basically the same team, except with slightly different records. They do not do anything for me. Russell Wilson is clearly not in his A game. Neither of these coaches are in their A game. I couldn't tell you a skill position guy on either of their team that I would want on my team, minus maybe Cortland Sutton, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, Armenian. Let's beat the Cowgirls. I agree. We talked about the Cowboys a little bit ago, just like I believe it was last game. We just broke it down. Cowboys losing to the Dolphins, and we talked about the Lions to start the show. So you can go ahead and rewind if you want to look back at that. If not, we will move along here to the Raiders upsetting the Chiefs. And now this game, this is truly, when I say to you, one of the single ugliest games of football ever played at a professional level. Let me give you some stats, okay? Well, actually, let me just give you numbers in the abstract, okay? We have 62, 0, 12.1, 50.3, 42, 14, 0, 21, 5. The first set of numbers that I listed there was the passing yards for Aiden O'Connell in this game, 62, 0 touchdowns, and a 12.1 QBR with a 50.3 rating on ESPN. The next set of stats I gave you was their leading receiver, Jacoby Myers, who had 42 yards, an average of 14 yards per catch on 5 targets with a long of 21. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but if your long is a 21 and your total yards is 42, that means you got half your yards from one play. How did they win this game? How is this even possible? Okay, look, I love Patrick Mahomes. I think he's a stud. The guy is one of the most electric quarterbacks to ever play the game. How do you lose this game, Patrick? I don't care if your wide receivers have, irons for hands. I don't care if they have, if they're Edward Scissorhands out there. How the heck do you lose this game? This stat, Armenia, man, they did not complete a pass from the second, third, or fourth. That is atrocious. The fact that the Chiefs, who are supposed to be, the reigning Super Bowl champs, Patrick Mahomes, supposed to be the next GOAT, right? That they lost to a team that did not complete a pass for 3 out of the 4 quarters. Think about this, okay? If a team doesn't complete a pass for a half, you would think that team is losing the game by 100. You want to know how I know that? Because I remember the Lions did it to the Packers, where Jordan Love threw for like 2 completions in the first half, and we were up 24-0. The Chiefs scored 2 touchdowns in this game, and not a single one of them were in the first or the third quarter. So that means, by the way, that in the one quarter where they were completing passes, okay, the Vegas Raiders scored 3 points. In the quarters where they were not, they scored 17 points. How? How does this happen? How does this happen? And I mean, the problem with the Chiefs is like, I mean, you're not getting rid of anybody, obviously. I mean, like, you're not asking to cut Mahomes. That's just not gonna happen. You're also not gonna fire Andy Reid. But at the same time, it's like, what is going through the mind of this? Like, what is going through the mind of the front office of this team that at the trade deadline, during the offseason, during the draft, they looked at their wide receiver room and they said, "We're good." I know you just won the Super Bowl. I mean, I get it. You win the Super Bowl, you feel like you have the greatest team ever, you're never going to lose another game. Understood. Since week 1, this team has not looked good. And that's, even downplaying how the Lions played against them. Right? Like, that's me, a Lions fan, telling you they didn't look good in that game. And obviously, they didn't have Chris Jones. They didn't have, Kelsey. If they played anywhere near the level that they're playing right now against us, I mean, first game, same as the current, like, it would be the same show. Like, it wouldn't, the result would not change. I mean, let me just run down for you this wide receiver room, okay? Rashee Rice, Richie James, Travis Kelsey, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Justin Watson, Noah Gray, Blake Bell, Justin Ross, Marquise Valdez-Scantling, and Isaiah Pacheco. Those were all the guys that had at least one pass thrown to them. They had a total of 246 passing yards, and not a single time did they get into the end zone 2 times in a quarter. You give up. I want to say it was 2 defensive touchdowns. How do you not net that as the Kansas City Chiefs? I don't even know what I'm stunned by this game. The fact that the Vegas Raiders should make a push for Jefferson, I doubt it's going to happen, but you know what? You make the call, right? What are they? Okay, let's say you call, if you're the Chiefs, front office, what's the worst that can happen? You make the call. I think they need to do something. They need to either fix the offensive line. Certainly, they need to fix the wide receiver room, because when Rashee Rice, if he's your leading receiver, the fact that you're 9-6 is a result of the fact that you have one of the greatest quarterbacks easily in this generation playing for your team. If they didn't have Mahomes, they'd be lucky to be a 500 team. And I'm not one to, get into the GOAT debate, at least not on this show. Maybe in more casual streams, we'll talk about it at some point. But hard for me to call somebody the GOAT when this is the supporting cast they get, number one, because I can't see, when guys are just dropping balls, how am I supposed to, that's not the quarterback's fault. But then further, when the same people who would say, Brady never had, X, Y, or Z. And then, when Mahomes loses stuff, look at how Brady performed when he lost some of his talent. But then when Mahomes loses his talent, Mahomes loses Tyreek, when Travis Kelce's not the same, when his wide receiver room is bad, then it's, then it's nothing. Look, again, I love Patrick Mahomes. I think he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest quarterback that I've ever seen play outside of Tom Brady. But they got to figure it out. They're almost certainly going to be in the playoffs, but they're also almost certainly going to be early round exits. It doesn't look good. It just doesn't look good. And finally, I have a personal gripe to give in this game. I have a personal, vindictive, angry. I'm disgusted. I'm physically nauseous. I'm going to vomit all over the screen right now. Brock Purdy, what the hell was that? What the hell did I just see? That was, without a doubt, the single most pitiful performance from a supposed MVP candidate I've ever seen. This late in the season, at your own house, you're the best team in the league. A chance to go 12-3. And you go on national television on Christmas and you poop your pants. 255 yards, no touchdowns. 1, no. 2, no. 3, no. 4 interceptions. And you know why I'm so mad at Brock Purdy? Because I had Brock Purdy in fantasy, and he quite literally lost me points. I could have put in Justin Herbert, who is currently not playing football because his hand is not working. I could have put Herbert in, and I actually would have been better off because Brock Purdy lost me points. Now, I'm not getting into the fantasy football. I'm mostly kidding about that, but this to me, I was very underwhelmed by this game because I thought this was going to be, immovable force meets unstoppable object. I said that right? Wait. Yeah, I said that right. Two forces gonna meet in the middle, see who's gonna win. And Baltimore, just from top to bottom, looked like the better team. Obviously winning the turnover battle. Lamar Jackson, couple of touchdown passes, passed for over 250 yards, ran for an extra 45 yards. passing it to basically everybody. Zay Flowers, Isaiah Likely, Gus Edwards, anybody. Who wants the football? Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham, 13 yard. Who wants it? Anybody. It's all yours. Nelson Aguilar has a receiving touchdown. Gus Edwards has a rushing touchdown. Who wants the football? It was a free-for-all. And the defense completely shut them down. And look, again, I think you see the flaw in the San Francisco 49ers, which, to be fair, is a pretty hard flaw to get to. And it's if you force Brock Purdy to beat you, if you force him to be that guy and, protect the football and all that, if you put some pressure on him, he will fold like an old card table. And I think to extrapolate this to the Lions, I think of what the Ravens did to us. I mean, they kicked our ass in their home. And this game, score-wise, obviously was very different. But practically speaking, it was pretty much the same game. I mean, the game was basically over before the third quarter was ended. I guess in our case, our game was probably over before the end of the second quarter. But this Ravens team, right now, they have taken the throne as the best team in football. And with an AFC that's wide open, with the Chiefs struggling as they are, with the Browns being, I think, the second best team, or the Browns and the Dolphins, two teams that we're really not sure how they can do it in the playoffs. But at the same time, I look at the Ravens and I look at Lamar Jackson. He struggled in the playoffs. He never made an AFC championship game. Certainly never won it. But right now he's playing out of his mind. And look, here's the thing. I was hurt by Lamar Jackson last year in fantasy. He hurt me. He didn't perform when I needed him to perform. I was hurt personally. It was a very emotional time for me. This Lamar Jackson is the Lamar Jackson of 2019, but potentially even better, because it's not like he's running all over the place and he's every single game he's making unbelievable rushing touchdowns, all that stuff. He's throwing the football with accuracy. He's got weapons. He's doing everything right, and credit to him. He bet on himself, and right now it's paying off. They have the best record in the NFL right now, 12-3. They are 7-1 on the road. That is not easy, not in this league. And the remaining schedule, I believe they have the Steelers, right? They have the Steelers at home, and they got the Dolphins at home. They certainly could win out the rest of the year. Their last loss was against the Browns at home. I don't know what they did after that loss, but they figured it out. That's for Darnold, sure. And speaking of Darnold, he did, in fact, play in this game. And for but a moment, I was like, wait, is Sam Darnold going to resurrect this? Is he going to do it? And no. He's Sam Darnold. He stinks. Speaking of backups, has anybody seen Trey Lance? Has anybody seen him? Is he all right? Does he exist? Is he a real person? Is he a real quarterback? Do we know that he's real? I don't know that he's real. I'm just saying. I don't know that I legitimately have never seen him. I haven't seen him on the sidelines. I don't watch a lot of Cowboys football, but sometimes it's on, so I'll catch it. I've never heard. I don't even know if anybody's mentioned him. I might be the first person to mention him this year. But that is the end of our NFL segment. So it's actually going to be a bit of a shorter show today. Because I just want to do one more segment here, because I got to talk about the Pistons. Right now, Pistons are losing to the Nets 52-50. If they lose tonight, they will break the record. They will lose 27 straight games, which is the most any NBA team has done in a single season. And recently, one Tom Gores, the owner of the Pistons, did an interview. Believe it or not, he actually spoke out. Amazingly, we got confirmation that Tom Gores is in fact a real human being. And in the interview, this was actually a relatively recent interview in terms of it wasn't just something that was asked before and then they dropped it, just particularly at this time. And it is a bit of a coincidence that they drop it as a Christmas weekend is about to happen, so nobody notices. But I noticed. Tom. Anyways, so I'm going to read this aloud. And I want you to make sure that while you're listening to the words I am going to say to you, to keep your mouths closed so as to not just like let a bug fly into your mouth because you are just so shocked at the words you are going to hear that your mouth is going to be agape. Let me begin. The question the reporter asks, how does it feel when fans are chanting, quote, sell the team? This is in reference to, I believe it was Wednesday's game. I believe it was Wednesday, maybe Thursday. I think actually it might have been Thursday, where when the Pistons lost to the Jazz, fans were chanting, sell the team, fire Weaver, all that stuff. Here is Thomas Gores' answer. And I quote, they can say what they want, but that's ridiculous. Other than winning, and we should win more games. We do a lot in the community. Players, the organization, we do a lot in the community. If you put aside winning, we've made a very big difference in the community. That means a lot to me. I understand that's only going to mean a lot to people if we win, but the underworking of what's happening and with our community over all these years is there. We're doing multi-billion-dollar things outside of basketball. I understand the fans being upset, but it's a ridiculous thought. Well, I'm glad you think so, Tom, because I don't think it's ridiculous. I think it's the only logical thing to say. You have put together, under your tenure, one of the single worst professional sports franchises in any sport, not just the NBA. I believe the only owners that are comparable would be David Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers. And they play way less games. So the fact that your winning percentage is even in their sphere is already kind of upsetting. Secondly, talk about the absolute audacity of this man to say that it is, to say, other than winning, we're doing pretty good for ourselves. Do you know what the reason for owning a sports team is? It's for winning. You don't own the sports team because you want to open up a homeless shelter. You want to open up a homeless shelter? You can use your billions of dollars to go open up a homeless shelter. What you don't need to do is own the Detroit Pistons and turn it into a homeless shelter for bad basketball players. That's what you don't need to do. I mean, my gosh, is it how do you not? It's not simply that your team is mediocre, Tom. Your team is right now on the cusp of NBA history of losing 27 straight games. They've already broken the franchise record that, by the way, was set over 2 seasons. You managed to break that in 1. But on top of that, there's still more. And not from Thomas Gores, but from one Monty Williams. And I saw this today. I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely flabbergasted by this. So from Keith Langelis, he tweets this out or X's this. I don't know. He posts it. Losing beats up everyone emotionally and mentally. But Monty Williams finds inspiration in the way the Pistons show up the next day to work. Quote, the way they come back the next day is something I'm blown away by. Blown away by? Hey, Monty, it's their job. Of course they come to work. What are they just gonna stop coming to work? We're giving away participation trophies, and we wonder why we've lost 26 straight games. This is unbelievable. I couldn't believe. Why would you? I'm blown away by the fact that they managed to come to work. You know what? I wish my manager would have that sort of standard because then I wouldn't have to do anything. I could show up to work, put my legs up on the table on the desk, and just go to sleep for 8 hours. Because that's about. I'm blown away that they managed to come to work. Are you, Monty? I'm blown away that you still have a job. What's it take to get it fired around here? How many games in a row do you got to lose? My goodness. I between Monty Williams giving out participation trophies and Tom Gores saying winning doesn't matter because, oh, look, we opened up a basketball court for the poor. I am already emotionally exhausted from this team. in terms of actually being invested in wanting them to win. Because at this point, I just want them to lose. At this point, what I want is for Tom Gores and Troy Weaver and Monty Williams to be the three most embarrassed people in basketball. Because the fact that they get to just show up day in and day out and run this organization is ridiculous. And I've given Monty Williams some leeway. His system is designed around shooting the three, and we don't have any three-point shooters. But Monty, did you ever stop and think when you took the job that this roster doesn't have any shooters? Did you ever stop and think that, wait a minute, we've lost, I don't know, 26 straight. Maybe I should, I don't know, change my system. Clearly, shooting the three is not this team's strength. So you could do it 100 times. They're going to lose 100 times. I think I've yelled enough about this team, but they are still on the cusp of history. And at this point, I think as Pistons fans and as NBA fans, I think we should be absolutely just disgusted by this display, this gall from ownership, from the general manager, who has yet to say a word, by the way. Troy Weaver has yet to speak out. From the coach, who just, they show up to work. That's the standard. That's the standard in Detroit. And you know what that does? I know for a lot of NBA fans, they can just ignore the Pistons. It doesn't matter. I'm not a Pistons fan. I'm rooting for the Bucks. I'm rooting for the Knicks. I'm rooting for the Heat. I'm rooting for the Lakers. I don't have to care about what the Pistons are doing. It devalues the NBA if at any given night when you have to play the Pistons, you could basically run your G League squad like the Utah Jazz did and win the game. It completely devalues that this is a competitive league because it's not a competitive league. Clearly. I mean, even the Oakland A's last year in baseball, they never had a losing streak that was comparable to this. Because what we have done essentially is we have lost essentially a quarter of the season in a row. We are only a few, we are 10, we are 20 games away from having lost half of our season in a row. The irony is, there's a good chance we could not win another game until, hold on, let me pull it up. Detroit Pistons schedule. Let's see. Here we are. The next opponent that we could potentially win is at home against San Antonio on January the 10th. We're talking almost a month away at this point. And you know what's even worse is our next game this Thursday against the Boston Celtics on the road, by the way. That game, for now, is going to be on NBA TV, which means the entire nation, in theory, if you have NBA TV, will be able to watch that game. And even worse, January the 12th, we'll be playing on ESPN against the Rockets at home. Now that, if we are still losing games by that point, that is a game I think Pistons fans, I know there's been some sort of crude organization of boycotts and whatever, what have you. Friday, January the 12th, if you are willing, and I'm not going to do this, I'm just going to be full disclosure, I'm not going to go to this game. If you are willing, go to that game and, chant, sell the team, fire Weaver, whatever you do, put it on national television. That'll be on ESPN. Everybody's got ESPN. They're not going to miss that game. Go to that game and put us on a national, because the commentators for ESPN are not going to ignore the sell the team chance. They're not going to be like the Valley Sports Detroit guys who basically are paid to ignore it. So my mission to Pistons fans, if you are so willing, or to anybody, you don't even have to be a Pistons fan. January the 12th. Assuming nothing has changed at that point, at home against the Rockets on ESPN, that is the game that you need to go out and just show the world just how pissed Pistons fans are. So, with that, we are going to move along. Move along to, of course, that part of the show where we look at football games and we try to determine who will be the winners of those games basically by random chance. We have no skill in this whatsoever. At least I don't have any skill in this whatsoever. It is the picks. Great track right here. Oh, that's his picks. Here we go. Rock and roll. So, Thursday night football. We have one of the games of all time. The Jets visiting the Browns. Seth taking the Browns in this one. I agree. Look, I talked about earlier in the show, Joe Flacco is actually kind of good. And the Jets, hey, they blew out the Commanders last week, surprisingly. I don't know how they did that, but no. I mean, this is still not a good Jets team. They're very not good. I don't even know. They got Trevor Siemian. Is that their quarterback? Is that what they're going to be rocking with? Yeah. I don't think that's a good combination, and I think that this could be a defensive game. We'll just leave it at that. It's going to be an ugly game, but I think the Brownies are going to come away with a win here. Saturday night football, although it's technically sort of Monday night football, but because of the college games, there's not going to be Monday night football. It's the Lions visiting the Cowboys. Seth is taking the Lions in this one. Wow. I actually appreciate it, Seth. I'm also going to take the Lions just because I'm a biased Lions fan, and I'm taking the Lions. Look, I don't think it's totally out of the realm of possibility here. The Lions coming into this game as the hotter team. Obviously, the Cowboys being undefeated at home, I should say, is going to make this game much tougher. But we've seen in back-to-back weeks, Cowboys are certainly a vulnerable team, and they're cooling down at the wrong time in the season. Lions, on the other hand, they're heating up at the right point in the season. Technically speaking, the Lions at this point are just playing for seeding. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to host a home playoff game, and I think there's a good chance that you could have C.J. Gardner-Johnson back for this game, which is only going to bolster the defense that has been playing pretty well the last couple of weeks. So give me the Lions to win this game. Up next, we have the Dolphins visiting the Ravens. Seth is taking the Birdies in this one, and I am just, this is a toughie. I am going to agree just because it'll be a cold December afternoon, and Tua and those Dolphins, they just seem to don't like the cold. There's a lot of not fun weather when it comes to the Ravens. Baltimore at this time of year it's not gonna be fun. It's not gonna be Miami. And the Dolphins, they just seems like this is a year-to-year occurrence where they do this. Now, obviously, they had the impressive win this past week against the Cowboys at home. This is going to be a much tougher game. Ravens look like they could be a Super Bowl contender, and I think if the Dolphins want to put themselves in that category with the Ravens, they got to go out and they got to win this game. But I don't think they're going to do that, so give me the Birdies. Up next, the Patriots visiting the Buffalo Bills. Seth is taking the Bills. And I am going to agree with this because I will never take the Patriots. I don't care that they beat the Broncos. The Broncos stink. They shouldn't have beaten the Broncos. It shouldn't have happened. It was like an astronomical anomaly. Like it shouldn't have happened. But the Bills, on the other hand, they've looked pretty solid. I mean, they beat the Chargers on the road Saturday night there. That was a pretty tough game for them to. They toughed that one out. It wasn't pretty. But I think this Bills team is starting to figure some things out. They could be a sneaky team in the playoffs. But yeah, they're definitely better than the Patriots. So I'll just give it to the Bills. Up next, the Falcons visiting the Bears. Seth is taking the Bears. I will agree. The Bears are probably just the better team on paper. Or maybe just in practice. Bears coming off of a big win. Well, big win. Big as in they beat the team really by a large amount against the Cardinals. And the Falcons coming off of a game where they just look terrible. Again, because that's all they do is just look terrible. I don't understand. Or they win the game. But like they just like I hate them. I hate the Falcons. They're like they're like a staph infection if it was a football team. So, no, I refuse. I'm not taking the Falcons. Give me the Bears. Up next, the Titans visiting the Texans. A little rematch from a couple of weeks ago here. Seth, is taking the Texans. I'm going to take the Titans in this one. I'm going to switch it up. I don't know if CJ Stroud is going to be back at this point. And look, as bad as the Titans are, they are, I think, still technically in the hunt. So I think they want to win this game. They lost the last one in very unfortunate fashion. I think they have this game circled. I think they're going to want to keep their playoff hopes alive. And because I'm just not certain about CJ Stroud's situation, I really have no reason to take the Texans right now, especially given how bad they look without him. So yeah, give me the Titans. Up next, the Raiders visiting the Colts. Seth is taking, wait for it, the Raiders. No, taking the Colts. Give me Minshew Mania. Look, the Raiders scored no offensive touchdowns. That's crazy to think about that they did that last week. So yeah, give me the Colts. They're not like an amazing team, but they're a weirdly good team. And again, that division is still wide open. Jaguars, I don't know what they're doing. They're playing with they're not playing football. We'll just say that. I almost said something I shouldn't have said. And the Colts are just like a weird team. They're somehow a above 500 team, and they're in the playoff picture, kind of. I don't know. Give me the Colts. Up next, we have a battle of the kitties. Panthers at the Jaguars. Seth is taking the Jaguars. Yeah, of course I'm taking the Jaguars, guys. Come on now. This game is going to be probably very bad. I wouldn't recommend watching this game if you have a choice in the matter. But the Panthers actually showed some life against the Packers last week. They got it a little bit close. Bryce Young had a game, I guess. And the Jaguars, it's like they're just shooting themselves in the foot. At a certain point, you just kind of grow tired of Trevor Lawrence, where you're like, okay, this guy is constantly being touted. He's a generational talent. He's number 1 overall pick. They got their guy in Jacksonville. And outside of that span last year where he was looking really good, he just really hasn't impressed me all that much. And while I think he's going to get the win here, and he certainly has a shot to make the playoffs again and maybe, change everybody's mind, I got to think the Jaguars, I think they get this win, but I don't think they're going to do much else from there. So give me the spotted or blotched. What do Jaguars have? Whatever. The kitties from Florida. Give me them. Up next, the Rams against the Giants on the road. Seth is taking Los Rams. I will agree here because Thomas DeVito is not a good quarterback. I do kind of like the idea that people had where they were like, oh, are they gonna the Giants gonna sign Tommy DeVito? And then I was just thinking, no, why would they sign Tommy DeVito? He stinks. He's not that good. Like he had some legendary moments there. Obviously beating the Packers. Shout out. I'll always love him for that. But no, I mean Matthew Stafford and this Rams team starting to heat up at the right time. This is a scary team to face in the wild card round, assuming they make it. So, yeah, I know it's on the road. Weather's not going to be great, obviously, late December in New Jersey. So, yeah, give me the Rams, though. I think they're going to pull off the win. Cardinals visiting the Eagles. We got another battle of the birds here. Seth has taken the Eagles. And, yeah, I will take the Eagles. This feels to me like a lot of ugly teams playing bad teams. Like this feels like the get right week for a lot of teams. Eagles really been struggling. Obviously they get the win on Christmas over the Giants. Certainly needed that bounce back game. But Jalen Hurts not looked amazing last few weeks. Defense certainly has not looked amazing. But this Cardinals team is so bad, and you're coming into your house. I think this is going to be a pretty easy win for the Eagles. So give me the Birds of Philadelphia. That's the sound an eagle makes. I'm never making that noise again. I probably made it in the past. Up next, the Saints taking on the Buccaneers. Little NFC South action. Seth is taking the Buccaneers. And I am going to agree. Buccaneers figuring it out. Baker Mayfield starting to have a sneaky good year. Like, certainly you'd say in the running for comeback player of the year. He's made those Buccaneers a pretty tough team. You know, they're going to be at home this time up against their division rivals. I don't know if this would ice the division for them. It could be. I'm not totally sure. I think they might need some help outside of that potentially. But certainly, it goes without saying, this Buccaneers team does have weapons. Obviously, Mike Evans and, you know, Palmer and obviously Baker Mayfield throwing the ball to him. They've been playing pretty well. So, yeah, I think this Buccaneers team is solid. I think they're going to win this game. And the Saints, the more I talk about the Saints, the more depressed I get. So I'm just going to stop talking about the Saints. Moving on. The 49ers visiting the Commanders. Seth is taking the 49ers for obvious reasons. Yeah, I think this is a bounce-back game. That 49ers team got smacked around. Doesn't feel good. Brock Purdy did not look good. But the Commanders stink. They have an awful defense. I think this is, like, prime taking for anybody, or for everybody, I should say, on that offense to just feel good about themselves. Christian McCaffrey likely going to go off. Debo going to go off. Brock probably going to go off. If you're the Commanders, I don't know. Maybe you see what you got in Jacoby Brissett. I mean, like, he's been playing okay. Sam Howell he puts up a lot of yards, but that's about all I could say that's good about him. So, yeah, give me the 49ers to win this game on the road. Steelers visiting the Seahawks. Seth taking the Seahawks to win this game. This is a genuinely tough game because there's a part of me that says, well, the Steelers have to finish above 500, and they're not beating the Ravens. So that only means the only option is for the Steelers to win the game. I don't know how it's going to happen. They could return a punch. They could block a field goal. I don't know. It could be a low-scoring affair. I have no idea how this is going to happen. But it is going to happen. Give me the Steelers to win the game. Up next, the Chargers visiting Denver, taking on the Broncos. Seth is taking the Chargers to win this game. Sorry, Seth, that's not going to happen. As bad as the Broncos are, they're not losing to Quentin Stick, because if you lose to Quentin Stick, or what's his name? Quiston? I don't even know. Stick Boy. They're not losing to the Stick Boy. It's not going to happen. They're not. The Broncos are terrible, but they're not that terrible. Like, well, they did lose to the Patriots. No. We're sticking with the Broncos. They're going to win this game. It's going to be at home. They're going to keep their playoff hopes alive going into the final week of the season. So, give me the Horsies. Up next, the Bengals visiting the Chiefs. Seth taking the Chiefs. And you know what? I'm going to also disagree on this. The Chiefs are 4-4, I believe, at home this year. Not great, Bob. Not great. Meanwhile, the Bengals, they're still fighting for their playoff lives. And granted, so are the Chiefs, but Chiefs certainly can be a little bit more complicit. And I think if they can manage to, play decent defense against the Chiefs, I think the Bengals have an actual shot here of winning this game. So give me the Kitties. Give me the striped Kitties. Give me them. And finally, Sunday Night Football, Packers at the Vikings, the battle of mid in the NFC North. Who's going to win it? Seth thinks it's going to be the Packers. And I am going to disagree. I'm going to take Nick Mullins and the Vikings. Look, we saw it this past week. The Vikings can put up a lot of yards. It's just a matter of not turning the ball over. Easier said than done. But I think that against the Packers, a team that is sort of stumbling a little bit here, they don't really know what's going on. They managed to beat the Panthers by like 3, so good job, guys, I guess. But their defense clearly has its struggles, and I think it's going to be a little bit of a shootout here. I mean, this is a divisional game. Both teams fighting for their playoff lives, but I think the Vikings come out on top here. So give me the Skull Boys. Go to round it up. Jets, Browns, we are both taking the Browns. Lions, Cowboys, we are both taking the Lions. Dolphins, Ravens, we are both taking the Ravens. Patriots, Bills, we are both taking the Bills. Falcons, Bears, we're both taking the Bears. Titans, Texans, Seth is taking the Texans. I am taking the Titans. Raiders, Colts, Seth is taking the Raiders. I am taking the Colts. Panthers, Jaguars, we are both taking the Jaguars. Rams, Giants, we are both taking the Rams. Cardinals, Eagles, we are both taking the Eagles. Saints, Buccaneers, we are both taking the Buccaneers. 49ers, Commanders, we are both taking the 49ers. Steelers, Seahawks, Seth is taking the Seahawks. I am taking the Steelers. Chargers, Broncos, Seth is taking the Chargers. I am taking the Broncos. Bengals, Chiefs, Seth is taking the Chiefs. I am taking the Bengals. and Packers Vikings. Seth is taking the Packers, and I am taking the Vikings. And those are your Week 17, second to last week in the NFL season, picks of the week. And that is your show. I thought it would be a little bit of a shorter show, but we managed to fill about an hour and a half. So appreciate people for stopping by, listening in. We will be back this Saturday, hopefully. Hopefully, whatever I've got is not anything serious. And I'm not like just totally disgusting by tomorrow here. So we'll gauge it. We'll figure it out. But for now, it is tentative that we will be live this Saturday evening for that Lions-Cowboys game, and hopefully a Lions victory. That would be excellent. So, yeah, appreciate you guys for stopping by, listening in. I will see you for that game, and if not, I will see you next week on... No, it won't be New Year's Day. It'll be the day after New Year's Day. So it'll be this. I'll see you in a year, potentially. The next year. I think I messed that one up, but either way, appreciate you guys stopping by, and have a great rest of your week. See you later, everybody. Goodbye.